The weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Man, it doesn't show signs of stopping. And I brought me some tea Earl Grey hot. The lights are turned way down low. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. When we finally kiss goodnight. How I hate going out in the storm. But if you...
Really?
Shut up, Wesley! All the way home, I'll be...
Warm. Oh, the fire is slowly dying. And my dear...
We're still goodbye, then. But
as long as you love me so, make it so.
make it so. Make it so.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Merry Christmas. I know it's a little bit much with the Star Trek, but there were too many jokes that I couldn't fit it all in just one concise 20-second clip. So I thought, it's Christmas. We'll listen to that because it makes sense to me. Merry Christmas. I hope you've had a wonderful morning. I hope you're enjoying your morning. I hope that Christmas is going amazingly for you. And I've had a wonderful Christmas. And hold on, there was something I was going to tell you and I can't remember what it was now. Oh, I remember. I watched every single one of those clips, all of those Star Trek clips. Two things. One, I watched all of those Star Trek clips the first time they aired on cable television. And I have fond memories of it, but Star Trek is different now, but I have fond memories of it. And two, hold on, there is something else. I don't know how much time it must have taken to find the right words to mash all of that up together. But again, it's amazing that I can kind of recall each episode, like where she says, "My dear captain." Anyway, I digress. There's lots to get to. Christmas messages from across Canada we've got today. Defund woke. Poilievre is saying, we're going to defund woke. I don't know what that means. Who's funding woke? Is he admitting that the government is funding woke? And if he is, I want more information. Put bones on that for me. Tell me exactly what you know. What are you going to defund? How are you going to do it? Let's talk about it, right? Let's be devastating about it, because the more that's exposed, not with weird kind of shady political language, but the more that people speak plainly about what's happening, your tax dollars go to this NGO from the government and this NGO does this, the more we know, the more we can actually stop it, and the more we can get pissed off about it, the more we can hold people accountable. Maybe. Ish. So Poilievre's talking about that. Inflation in Campbell's soup. We'll talk about that. Ever heard of flag polling? You will today, because it's no longer allowed as of yesterday. But up until the 23rd, it was allowed in Canada, and it's an immigration thing to make it easier to renew your visa. And so it was allowed in Canada up until like just a hot second ago. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We've got The Art of Purpose, and he says, this hit me hard yesterday because it's true. I sent it to my mom and I said, thanks, Mom, because it's super true. And I do it for my kids. And if you have any semblance of Christmas spirit, it was manufactured by your parents. Okay, it was, and it is. And you have to manifest that too. And I hope you do. The Art of Purpose says, as an adult, I've realized that all the Christmas magic I felt as a kid was really just parents who loved me so much. So I hope you feel that, and I hope you project that for your kids. And that's kind of what Christmas is all about, kind of. Pierre Poilievre says, joyous Noel and Merry Christmas. And it's got his family there and his kids. And there you go. So pretty simple Christmas message, pretty straightforward. Merry Christmas. Here's Maxime Bernier's Christmas message saying, thank you for the support. Merry Christmas. Here we go.
Catherine and I wish you a happy Christmas with family and friends. And we would like to thank you for the encouragement and support you gave us. And despite the enormous challenges our country is facing, let us remain hopeful that the new year brings us a joy and prosperity, and that our dreams come true.
Merry Christmas to all of you and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
There you go. So politicians saying Merry Christmas, keeping it plain, simple, nice, well-wishings. It sounds good to me. True North says, at Christmas time, to show our love, we give gifts to family and friends. God himself showed his love for us by giving us the gift of his son, Jesus Christ, and the gift of everlasting salvation for those who believe in him. Merry Christmas from all of us at True North. For half a second, I thought they were going to say, give the gift of a subscription today. I was like, oh man, I didn't mean to read that one. But then it went a very a very conservative Christmas message. So it's interesting to see all these Christmas messages. Hanukkah starts on the same day as Christmas, which is interesting. Just a notable thing. Or Hanukkah started yesterday? Something like that. Tim Houston said, Merry Christmas from my family to yours, but he's also got a big Hanukkah message as well. And so a very simple Christmas message again with his wife and kids, family. Merry Christmas with love from Tim Houston, he says. Some people are calling him out. Trojan Horse Houston, says Nova. Stop grooming kids for your sexual fetishes. So, I mean, Merry Christmas. Mayor Olivia Chow. These are the not so good Christmas messages. This one's the not so good Christmas message. And then we've got Justin Trudeau. I know. Anyway, Olivia Chow says, even in winter, it's great to see parks and neighborhoods come to life. Thank you to the St. Clair Gardens BIA for organizing the Frosty the Snowman Festival and all your work bringing St. Clair to life all year. So this was posted on December 22nd. It's green. I don't know why it's green. Like, was this done in November? Oh, there's a little bit of, was it not snowy Is it not snowy in Toronto? It's a very white Christmas here in Guelph. Ian says, what in the actual F is a Frosty the Snowman Festival, you godless communist? Aren't Christians part of the Toronto community too? Why are you erasing them at one of your most holy, or one of their most holy times of year? Right. Interesting question, right? And happy the Frosty the Snowman Festival to you too, Olivia Chow. Here's CBC watcher Trudeau delivers his final Christmas greeting, right? And it is more traditional than he's gone in recent years. Yeah, we're going to listen to it. 2-minute Trudeau warning. Apologies. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. This is a time of year to slow down, to rest, and to connect with the people you love most. It's a moment to put our phones down, to put our politics aside, even when that one cousin makes it really hard, and to focus.
He's the one Justin Trudeau's the one making it difficult to not talk about politics. Moron.
On what matters. For Christians, it's a time to celebrate the birth of Christ and think about his story of kindness, forgiveness, and faith.
Forgiveness. He implores everyone with his eyes.
The lessons of his life are universal, and they inspire and comfort people every time they're told and retold. For so many, the holidays are a time of big family gatherings and feasts, of gifts and celebrations. But maybe it's a very hard time for you. If you're grieving, worried, or alone, this can be the toughest time of the year. It can be the loneliest. So let us all check in on the people in our lives who've not had an easy time this year.
Okay, I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. That's like, we lasted 1 minute, and I was just like, oh my gosh. The next minute he dedicates to everybody who doesn't celebrate Christmas and who's out working, and that's it. And it just seems disingenuous. He's a better actor than he was 10 years ago when he started being the prime minister, 9 years, whatever it is. But still, I see through the acting. It's very, very, it feels like it's bullshit. It feels like he doesn't believe it. And so, I mean, I don't want to listen to him anymore. So there's Justin Trudeau's Christmas message. And are you convinced? Are you convinced that he's, that he cares at all about Christmas or Canada or the citizens at all? I'm not. I'm honestly, genuinely not. There are some serious issues on the horizon. And if he cared, he would be trying to deal with those issues rather than the same old nonsense. I'm hearing rumors of prorogation on January 27th, so there can be no motion of confidence introduced, and he can step down on that date, and then they can do a Liberal leadership race that'll last 3 months, and then an election then, right? And so, I mean, it's all of it seems that doesn't quite fix the problem unless during the election period of the Liberal leader, they're able to do procedural things in the House of Commons. And if they do that, then their goal will be to pass C-63, because without censorship, they can't do what they want to do to win. And so that's their goal. That's the only thing they need to get done. That's what they want to get done before election, because with the election, they can intimidate people by threatening their finances, by threatening jail time, all sorts of stuff. So very, very concerning, if you ask me. True North is reporting Trudeau has canceled scheduled year-end interviews with legacy media outlets, an unprecedented move amid the political turmoil started by Chrystia Freeland's resignation from his cabinet last week. So yeah, he's not twisting in the wind, but this is an opportunity. I saw Shogun, and in Shogun, it's really good. I enjoyed it quite a lot, but there's a scene where one of the leaders was being pressured to act, and then the son, or I think it's the son, kind of acts rashly and stupidly. He was told not to do the thing he was going to do, and then, but in the midst of doing it, he slips, falls, and cracks his head, and spoiler alert, dies. But it was an accident. He didn't get killed by an opposing side. It didn't start a war or anything like that, which had he succeeded, it would have started a war. Had the son succeeded and not slipped and killed himself, he would have started a war that his father probably would have lost. But this gave a mourning period. And so the father says, I'm going to use, like, thanks for the gift, son. I'm going to use this time to prepare. And he uses the time to prepare, and spoiler alert, he wins. But still, it's interesting. It's interesting to me how strange things can happen, and then politics can turn on a dime in ways that you don't expect. And so, like, I feel like we're being played in order to get them over some finish line. And I think the finish line is C-63. That's what I think the goal is. I think that they think that they can bring back the House under an interim leader, and the interim leader is Trudeau, and they're going to have the speaker forget about the filibuster, and they're going to be able to do business. And because Justin Trudeau is gone, but he's not really gone, right? And I think they think they'll be able to do it. I digress. I think we're being played with this whole he's going to step down or whatever. We are being manipulated on their timeline. So I hope I'm wrong about that. And anyway, moving on a little bit, him canceling all of the interviews is on brand, I think, more than anything, especially with the turmoil in the government. They don't want to answer questions. They don't want to answer questions whatsoever. Even the Christmas message didn't have any real meat on it, right? He's talking about forgiveness and love and Christmas time and people working over Christmas time. But like, what about the tariffs, sir? You know what I mean? Like, follow up. What about your government imploding in real time? Like, he doesn't want to address it at all. And he's using Christmas as a cover. So, Canadian Prime Minister is tweeting this. This holiday season, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to our brave Canadian Forces members, many of whom are celebrating the season away from their loved ones. We're deeply grateful for their selfless service and sacrifice. Thank you to our brave members of the Canadian Armed Forces. So, somebody was saying, and I agree with this assessment, they're trying to start a war with Russia. They want to start a meat grinder. They need people to buy in and want to go and fight in their war, because if you don't have buy-in, then you're not going to be able to kill as many people as previous wars, and not going to be able to, quote, win the war, and whatever that means. So they're trying to appeal to young white men to be soldiers in order to send them off to their death in foreign lands. And deaths like, let's go save Ukraine. Like, that's not going to happen. Canada could commit its entire military might to Ukraine right now, and we'd still lose, completely and utterly lose, and piss off Russia. So, like, it feels like that's an accurate read of what's going on. Somebody was even saying, and I could see this. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're wrong. But Trump is being used to rebuild the military, onboard Americans, and then send them to their deaths in a meat grinder, like Russia, Ukraine. But I don't think Trump's going to send them there. But hey, man, I've been wrong before, right? Like, so I could be wrong about that too. Trump didn't start any new wars during his first term. So your past behavior does tend to indicate your future behavior. Maybe. We'll see, right? So we'll see. But I don't know. I could see it in Canada. Anyway, Pierre Poilievre, let's move on. We'll talk about elections. And Poilievre posts this on Christmas Eve, which seems weird. It seems like a weird tweet to me. And then Amazing Polly responded. I said, isn't this a weird tweet to tweet on Christmas Eve? Amazing Polly said it's the start of Hanukkah. And I was like, yeah, I guess. Maybe that explains it. Here's Poilievre's tweet. I will defund wokeism and fight anti-Semitism and stand with our friends in Israel against terror. Okay. Weird. Merry Christmas Eve. I don't know. Jeremy McKenzie says, neither thing you're able to define and neither are, quote, funded, but it's good to know you'll be supporting foreign terrorists against Canadians like the last government. And then he goes on to say, F Israel, and now say Merry Christmas, Goy. As Poilievre said, he's a simple Goy from Toronto or from Ottawa or something like that. That's a quote. He was at the Jewish something or other. There was some Jewish event and he was there saying he's a simple Goy. I believe I played footage of it. So weird. It's all weird. Isn't that weird? I found that weird. Hanukkah starting or not. The wokeism and the anti-Semitism is wokeism. What is wokeism to whites? What anti-Semitism is to Jews? Can't we just stop with the nonsense and stop pretending false narratives are reality? Can't we just base things off fact? Anyway, TR guy is responding to Poilievre saying, I'll defund wokeism. And he says, Canada, he says he will defund wokeism, but not repeal Bill C-4 or stop SOGI in our schools, as 67% of delegates at the CPC convention passed a resolution. Poilievre is not worth the risk, he says. Yeah, there's concerns. There's concerns. Melissa Lantsman's using the same defund language, and I want more information about that. What do they know is funded? If they know, they should put some meat on those bones. A Poilievre-led government will defund the woke anti-Semitic agenda in our universities, crack down on all terrorist networks that Trudeau has allowed on our streets, consequences to those involved in perpetrating radicalism in our streets. Full stop. It's simple, and it can't come soon enough. Read it. And so it's an interview with the Winnipeg Jewish Review. Okay, so there you go. Crazy. Maybe that puts more meat on the bones. Hold on, I'll go see. Here's part of the article. Pierre Poilievre told the Winnipeg Jewish Review in an exclusive telephone interview December 18th, 24, that he will not tolerate and will, quote, defund all of those with a woke anti-Semitic agenda, including at universities who receive federal funding, as well as all federally funded museums. He reiterated that he plans to defund all those who are imposing a radical, terrifying, toxic ideology. This will apply to everything that the federal government controls, he stated. I will fire government officials throughout my administration who are imposing a toxic woke ideology. Okay, so great. That's wonderful. Poilievre said under a future Poilievre administration, there will be a crackdown on all terrorist networks that Trudeau has allowed on our streets. He said that laws would be passed that give serious consequences to those involved in perpetuating radicalism in our streets. We will also screen incoming immigrants to Canada to ensure that they have no terrorist links, he said. Poilievre noted that under a future Poilievre administration, anti-Semites would not receive federal funding. He made reference to the example of Laith Marouf. The Department of Canadian Heritage in November 23 had to take legal action to recoup its funds it paid to the consultant Marouf. The federal government had to terminate a contract with the Community Media Advocacy Center after it granted the group more than $122,000 for projects to help combat racism. It demanded the money back after Marouf, a senior consultant with the center, he is the center. Laith Marouf was like a one-man show, and his company was that. I don't think it had anything to do with anybody else, did it? Was he actually employed by a center? I thought it was just him, like he was the media company. Maybe I misunderstood that, but I'm pretty sure that he was the media company himself, and he got all of the money. $122,000 was to him directly, not to a group, like to him directly. A senior consultant with the center. He was accused of posting anti-Semitic content on X. One of Marouf's posts read, you know all those loudmouthed bags of human feces, also known as the Jewish white supremacists. Jewish white supremacists. When we liberate Palestine and they have to go back to where they come from, they will return to being low-voiced bitches of their Christian secular to white supremacist masters. Weird. And all of that's weird. I think it just adds to confusion. Jewish and white supremacy are two different things, as far as I understand it. Usually Jews aren't fighting for white supremacy, as far as I understand it. Regarding the Canadian Museum of Human Rights, Poilievre said the museum will be there to honor our history and to tell our stories, not to impose toxic woke ideologies against our people. Poilievre stated that Schulz will be protected since he will reinforce security infrastructure granted by expanding the eligibility for funds and simplifying things such that funding will be granted more quickly. In regards to Israel, Poilievre noted that I will remove any ban on the sale of military equipment to Israel that was imposed by the Trudeau government. He added that I do not recognize the legitimacy of the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and Prime Minister Netanyahu would be welcome here in Canada as a friend and an ally. Poilievre has stated elsewhere that in regard to Prime Minister Trudeau's statement that Netanyahu would be arrested, arrested on Canadian soil. It just shows once again how extreme Justin Trudeau has become. He wants to arrest the Prime Minister of Israel while he would not commit to the same for the Ayatollah of Iran, whose country and whose government carried out a real genocide against Sunni Muslims. I might add in Syria over the last decade and a half, who said he wants to launch nuclear weapons not only at Israel but at the United States. Trudeau is not interested in arresting him, but is interested in arresting the leader of a democratically elected government, the State of Israel, which has been besieged by terrorists and foreign tyrants attacking its land. It's another example of how radical Justin Trudeau is, how this extreme woke agenda, it permeates everything he does, and that's why we need to fire him and get back to a common sense conservative government that will stand with our allies against terrorism and tyrants. As far as standing with allies, fine, but I don't want to be funding anything to do with wars or conflict or anything like that. There's a bit more, but I'll just leave it there. Link is in the description, or maybe it's not. It should be in the description. The link to that piece is in the description. Let's talk about money very quickly. Balaji says, this is the single best long-run measure of food inflation, and it's gone vertical. Well, that's interesting, right? That's very interesting. Why is a Campbell's soup tin the single best indicator of food inflation? Interesting. I learned this yesterday. I had no idea. Here's the reason why. It says at any point... I don't know why it's not popping up. What makes Campbell's condensed tomato soup especially useful for seeing the effects of inflation is its remarkable consistency as an identifiable product over time. If you have a time machine and could travel to nearly any point in time from January 1898 to the present, you could likely find a number one can of Campbell's condensed tomato soup stocked for sale in hundreds of grocery stores all across the country. That long-running consistency makes Campbell's condensed tomato soup an ideal product to follow to understand inflation, because it's very difficult to subject to marketing tricks like shrinkflation, in which producers try to hide how much more it costs consumers to buy their goods by putting less of the product into the same size packaging. But they continue to charge the same prices before they monkeyed with them. Campbell's iconic cans of condensed tomato soup cannot easily hide the increased cost of everything that goes into them, whether it's the cost of tomatoes, spices, steel for the can, paper and ink for the labels, energy to produce, oil to transport, and of course labor at every level of its production. Because it cannot easily change its popular product price. The price consumer pay for a can of Campbell's condensed soup will capture most, if not all, the costs that go into making it at every level of its production. Political calculations has created a record of the typical price Americans have paid for a single iconic can of Campbell's condensed tomato soup in each month since January 1898 by going through more than 12 decades worth of archived newspapers and advertising circulars to identify the prices at which grocers have put them on sale. Today we are updating the price history in our chart visualizing that history from January 1898 through January 2024. And that chart looks like this. So you can see, right? The price of a Campbell's condensed soup can was unbelievably steady at almost 10 cents a can from 1898 until 1974, I guess. And then in 1974, the price started to increase. By 1995, the price of a can was 50 cents. By 2000, 50 cents. Roughly 50 cents, 50 cents. By 2010, it had gone up to 80 cents or 90 cents. By 2015, it is $1.10. No, by 2015, it is 90 cents. And then by 2020, it's $1.10. And by 2025, it's $1.30. Weird. Isn't that interesting? Super interesting how steady it was for such a long time. When did the United States get off the gold standard again? Just wondering. Super interesting stuff, right? Very interesting stuff, that inflation. Government printing money does impact things, right? It was, hold on, let's ask, I'll double check. I think it's under Nixon. I thought it was under Nixon, and I think that's right. It was the Nixon shock. In 1971, Nixon stopped the convertibility of direct international convertibility of the United States dollar to gold. He stopped that, and that created a shock because it changed the Bretton Woods system. It undermined, or it stopped one of the core pillars of the Bretton Woods system. And so the Nixon shock caused the inflation. And then since then, we've been using a free-floating de facto free-floating fiat currencies replace the Bretton Woods system, and so enables more money printing and manipulation, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why the chart looks like that, right? Super interesting since 1970. Pretty weird. Pretty interesting stuff. Here is a report from the United Kingdom. Nigel Farage is upset because Keir Starmer is cancelling elections that he'll lose to Reform. Like, if Reform looks like they're going to win, Starmer's canceling by-elections and things that he might lose. So isn't that weird? Super duper weird. Not great. Not great. Nigel Farage says, this is outrageous. Keir Starmer is behaving like Robert Mugabe. And Politics UK says, local council elections are now also expected to be postponed in Essex, Southend-on-the-Sea, and Thurrock. These elections were expected to be targets for Reform to be picked up. And so that's something to pay attention to. Right? The invasion ongoing, something to talk about. Global News says, as of midnight on Monday, Canada put an end to an immigration practice known as flag polling. What is it? And so what is flag polling? Essentially, when flag polling, a person exits Canada and reports to the U.S. Border Office, indicating that they intend to return to Canada and not to remain in the United States. Upon reaching the Canadian point of entry, the CBSA can then consider the person's application for the immigration service they're looking to receive. They can simply tell the U.S. border agent that if you don't have a U.S. visa and they will return you around before you can enter the U.S., you could then enter Canada, where CBSA agents would process your application, Gupta said. You can imagine why this was an irritant for the U.S. when the flow of goods and people was held up in border traffic. In May this year, the U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called on the Canadian government to end the practice on its side of the border. Gupta said applicants turned to flag polling as a last resort, owing to high wait times for processing visas. For visa processing in Canada. So not great, right? So what they do is they show up at the border and force a rapid approval by the border agent at the border, right? And so they've stopped that practice now as of December 23rd, right? Pretty wild. The agency said work and study permits will no longer be provided to flag pollers at a port of entry effective December 23rd at 11:59 p.m. So they were asked in May, and just before Christmas, I guess we'll stop that practice. Holy smoke, right? That's pretty wild. Ada says, I've landed 20 minutes ago in Barcelona. During the first 5 minutes, I was very confused. I thought the pilot got distracted and we went to Morocco instead. But then I saw a coffee place. I went straight to buy some orange juice since I thought I was having hallucinations due to low blood sugar. And I saw it. I saw a sandwich with jambon iberico. I quickly realized that I was indeed in Barcelona, but I'm afraid to tell you guys, Barcelona doesn't feel like Spain anymore. Barcelona is Morocco. Please, God have mercy on us, feels like a nightmare. How does Toronto feel these days? Does it feel like it used to? I don't think so. Tom is highlighting this, and these kind of things get buried a little bit around Christmas, but this is big news for Japan. Japan will become the country of choice for foreigners. We aim to realize a society of multicultural existence. These are the words the Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi said. Tom says, looks like they're going to Caligari Japan as well. This should go over well. These guys are saying that the Japanese government has sold them out. So, yeah. Yep. The invasion's happening everywhere, including Japan. That's interesting. Something to pay attention to, certainly. Here's some crime news in Canada. It's coming more local again. Circulon says, and just like that, comments are magically locked. So Peel Police say, robbery, one road in Fander Way in Brampton, retail store involved, merchandise stolen, suspects fled the area, no physical injuries, CR at 12:33, and then some numbers, and then Circulon says description of suspects, and they lock the post. Weird, right? Like, awful. Our government, right? Ooh, don't want to tell them who's committing crimes in their neighborhoods. Darshan Maharaja highlights this. This is pretty wild stuff. 3 kidnapping victims were found in a Brampton home. Holy smoke. 10 10 suspects have been charged in the case, and their names aren't mentioned. Why? Why do you think the names aren't mentioned? Top reasons that are wrong. CP24 says 10 suspects charged after police find 3 kidnapping victims inside of a Brampton home. 3 victims, 10 suspects. How many more victims do you think they've got? Here's the article. Absolutely no mention of anything. 10 people are facing several charges after police in Peel Region located 3 kidnapping victims inside a Brampton home. Peel Regional Police said on December 17th, officers attended an address near Kennedy Road North and Conservation Drive between Sandalwood Parkway and Mayfield Road in response to a kidnapping investigation. With the assistance of the tactical unit, they entered the dwelling and found 3 victims who were rescued and brought to safety. Police said that they then executed search warrants, resulting in the seizure of a loaded Ruger Security 9 handgun, a Glock 17 Gen 5 handgun, and ammunition. 10 individuals were also found inside the residence. They were arrested and charged with the kidnapping, forcible confinement, assault causing bodily harm, and various firearm offenses. The accused were all held for a special bail hearing at the Ontario Court of Justice in Brampton. The investigation is ongoing, and anyone with information is asked to contact PRP's 22 division. How could you have any information? If you call and give them information, is somebody going to show up and like eliminate you because you have too much information? Like, oh my gosh, their names are, oh, hold on, right? Like, this one knows too much. Ian's, it's like Mercury Rising, right? Like, this kid can break this code. Let's get him. Ian, which is a very traumatic movie to watch, by the way. Anyway, back to this. Ian says, breaking: Toyota and Ford have just donated $1 million to President Trump's inauguration fund. Interesting. Interesting indeed, don't you think? So $1 million to the inauguration fund. What does that help with? Is that lobbying? I have mixed feelings about big corporations looking after their own self-interests by giving money to politicians. I don't know a better way to do it, because like the Conservatives do $1,700 an evening, fundraisers at $17 million cost mansions and things like that. Like, the mansion doesn't cost them $17 million, but the mansion is valued at $17 million, and presumably the person who owns it owns, medium-sized company or something to that effect, and they want Poilievre in because they don't want to leave Canada, something like that. And if you wanted to have support, like, you'd need the support of businessmen, and the bigger business you can get, the better. But like, what happens when you get a bunch of communists together? What happens when the businesses all pool together and call themselves BlackRock and they own everything? And then you can't do anything that's not communist, right? Like, shouldn't there be a check and balance between political power and monetary power, et cetera, et cetera? And it doesn't seem like that check and balance is working. So there's something that is not above board about all this. And not necessarily that Ford or Toyota or Trump are doing anything wrong, but the whole system that allows this, there's something that is wrong about that. Because if it works for you, it will also work for your enemies, which maybe that's fine. If it works for everybody, you can abuse it the same. But it feels like the power structure is being changed. Like, I have $10 that I can give to the politicians, right? And Ford and Toyota have $1 million. So the politician's not going to say, what does Mark think? They're going to think, what does Ford and Toyota think about this? That's the problem, fundamentally, right? And so, like, Ford and Toyota, they create a lot of jobs and whatever. So, but what happens when the government goes to Ford and Toyota and says, we appreciate all that money that you gave us, and we want to keep you safe. So we're going to tell you, mask up, and is there a way we can do things from home and things like that? Again, this back and forth relationship undermines good sense, undermines the ability for people to make their own choices up. Like, you've got the government and Ford saying, monetarily, this is the best thing for us. You guys should do that. We want you to do that. And then all of a sudden you've got mandates that go against the basic rights, but the government's not violating the basic rights. They just told Ford and Toyota that we're going to look the other way on that, right? Like, we're not going to bring any cases on that. Don't worry about it. Just do what we want you to do. And when you violate these things, we're not going to do anything about it. So, and if somebody brings a case against you, just don't worry about it. We'll see to it. It seems like that's the kind of bed we're making. And I think that we should be careful celebrating stuff like this, because there's a flaw in this, and the flaw can bite us in the ass hard. And I think we've already been bitten in the ass. to be honest. It's Christmas time, and I'm just going to put this all out as a free show today because it's a little short and whatever. Like, it's hard to find it's hard to find new political news right now, even though there's a lot of things going on in Canadian politics right now. It's all kind of behind closed doors because they're all trying to scramble, as I've said, for Trudeau to get into a position where they can legislate because they want C-63 in, and but also placate everybody who wants Trudeau gone and out of power, right? They want to have their cake and eat it too, what's the point of having a cake if you're not going to eat it too? But they want to have it all. They are not interested in compromising. They're not interested in hearing the public that are absolutely sick of these lunatics being in charge. They're not interested in that. They've got a grip on power and they want to keep it, right? So with that, there's a lot of backroom dealing. Like, we just had a cabinet shuffle. We just had some major shockwaves happen in the Canadian kind of landscape. And there's not enough real time before Christmas for anybody to really get anything done. Like, people were being sworn in days ago because Chrystia Freeland lobbed a bomb into Justin Trudeau's government. And again, it should have really collapsed it. So we're going to see how that all plays out. But right now it's playing out behind closed doors. People are gearing up. I'm sure new ministers are busy working over Christmas and so on and so forth, but we're not seeing any of that yet, right? And like the tweets and stuff coming out talking about that, it's not so robust. Andy Lee's putting out some great stuff. There's all sorts of interesting things going on. China, we don't know anything. Like, we've got an election on the horizon imminently coming in, barreling down on us right now. And we don't know anything about the Chinese traders in our House of Commons. Are there 11? Are there 41? Which parties are they in? Elizabeth May was saying, I'm not even worried in the slightest. And then she says, if Pierre Poilievre doesn't read this thing, then national security is at stake. And it's like, well, like, what is it, man? Like, is it real bad or is it not so bad at all? And if it's not so bad at all, why do you care if he reads it? And if it's real bad, why aren't you pressuring Jagmeet Singh to drop the government? It's inconsistent, Elizabeth May. It doesn't make any sense, right? And same with all these other calls for Poilievre to read the security, blah, blah, blah. The report, the NSICOP report that would muzzle him and not allow him to talk about all of this. So while there's lots of news, again, it's a little thin, or we've already heard it all. So apologies. And it's been busy too. So I do my best, but things fall through the cracks. So I try. But these are some weird stories. So I've been telling you about 0-point energy and drones and the orb things. And I'd seen a treatment talking about how the what is it? What flight is this? The MH370. Remember when the MH370 disappeared and people were like, oh, it's lost in real life and the plane's going to show up and all the people are going to, not aged at all and it's going to land and it'll be like the Titanic showing up now, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff. And I was kind of dismissing it. And apparently there is footage of 3 orbs circling. And I've seen this footage, but I dismissed it as like, I don't know. I dismissed it as a movie or something like that. Like, oh, this could happen, or CGI, maybe this could happen. Apparently, yeah, this is real and this is real. Like, this is real footage. It's classified and it's been released publicly. And these are 3 orbs. And basically they're creating a wormhole. You can't see it. They create a wormhole around the plane and they can teleport the plane. And I didn't think that teleportation was something that we could do. I didn't think that teleportation was something like, oh yeah, no problem. Now, I don't know where it went, but I saw a guy talking about these wormholes, 0-point energy, and creating he talked through, I don't know where it is. So when I find it, I'll mention it again on the show. But he talked through how these 3 orbs work together, spin around the plane, and then create a field, and then it disappears. And here we go. Here's the thing. See this cursor here? This cursor is the tell that says this is a leaked video from classified video, classified information, et cetera, et cetera. And the sauce on that is this guy talking down. No, this guy talking down here. No, hold on. Here. This guy with the crazy hair, this guy talking here, he's talking about this. He's talking about how he thought it was a hoax, and he doesn't think it's actually a hoax now. And this guy, Ashton Forbes, is some physicist who's talking about this stuff. Now, I mean, again, you got to take this with a grain of salt. This is a video. You can easily manipulate video. Videos are manipulated. Like one of the easiest forms to manipulate. You can do. I've seen Trump dressed as Santa Claus, smoking a stogie, and hanging out with Putin, and like shooting up whoever the traitors that are against him, right? Like, but it was an AI video, so take it with a big, heavy grain of salt. But like these guys are saying this is real, so grain of salt. But interesting stuff going on anyway. Here's the video of the plane disappearing. I don't know why it's... Okay, hold on. I'm going to find a better video because that's not the one I want to show you. Okay, here's the part where the plane disappears.
And inside information, how did the kid in their bedroom know that the cursor, which we see off the refilmed video, is exactly the same cursor that the NRO use for observations? That comes from a very good source. There's lots of things in this video.
So, I don't know. I haven't gone down that particular rabbit hole, but I'm sure it's a fun rabbit hole. But seeing that, I mean, sometimes I said to my friend, I want to believe, but we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. If we could do that, how small are those things? Like, how small can you make them? Can you disappear like this thing out of my hand? Could you just like put orbs around this thing and like poof it? I'm interested, but I have questions. This is the last story, I guess, for today. This guy, somebody sent this to me, and they said, you've got to read this. You've got to hear about this. And so Zilla says, the next scary AI phase in your new Windows and iPhone 16 is here now. So I think I'm going to be moving over to Linux. That'll be fun. But this guy goes through what the next scary AI phase in your Windows phone is. And it's an AI friend, an AI companion that sees and hears everything that you see and hear because it lives on your phone. And it listens to you all the time and listens to what happens like to you. It'll read your emails and all the rest of it, right? And you'll be like, hey, whoever your assistant is, can you tell me what I'm supposed to be up to today? Like, am I late or, whatever? And it'll tell you about appointments. It'll tell you, oh, you're going to meet a friend, and this is the last time you saw this friend. Here's some helpful pointers about what they're going through because your AI assistant's gone through their Facebook to see what they're up to and, all that kind of stuff, right? But what can happen, and what he points out is that the AI, so there's a video here and it's 20 minutes, totally worth the watch. I watched it yesterday, and he says that the AIs are trained on meta AIs and they're very biased against privacy. So the AI would suggest that you share information with Facebook, even though this guy, Rob Braxman, is very, very privacy minded. The AI will upsell Facebook tools and things like that when he doesn't necessarily want that. And then also he's concerned that like if you have this friend, this AI friend that knows everything about you and suggests everything, like could that AI friend influence you? Probably, right? Put things into your head and like talk you into things? Yeah, probably, right? If it knows you really well. And like what else could that AI do? Could it not have specific products? Like could it not recommend specific products? But more than that, say you're like on the fence about something. Say like a vaccine's rolling out and they say it's safe and effective and you have to take it to keep your job and stuff, and you're like, oh man, AI friend, what do you think? Like, is this vaccine safe and effective? And the AI friend's like, yeah, man, like everything that I could read about is everything says it's safe and effective, super duper safe and effective. And you're like, okay, so those friends in the Truman Show that keep you on board? Like if you've seen the Truman Show, Jim Carrey is a star and everybody's watching him, but he doesn't know he's in a show. And then like his entire life is scripted and they cast people to be his friends, right? And so like they had a conflict, and so Truman was questioning things, and so they have people who are specifically tasked with getting him back into the fold of just living his life and not questioning anything. That's what your AI companion friend will do. That's what will happen. And then like if you're like, man, like, I'm not sure about your conclusion, AI friend. I'm just going to start Googling this. So like, it's cool though, mRNA ineffective, blah, blah, blah. So now your AI friend knows that you think that something's up, right? And your AI friend can't onboard you. So what does Truman's friends do when that happens? They take it up to the boss, right? What do you think your AI friend's going to do when you don't agree that mRNA technology is what it says it is? When you don't agree that you should probably get this thing because it's going to save your life? When you don't agree that you should listen to it, what happens then? Do its eyes turn red, right? Like, my gosh, it would be like you're under hypnosis. You'd have your very own babysitter. Scary. Watch this video. It's very interesting. And this one is how did we go from playing outside to being on screens? It's on the way to a full-blown AI babysitter. It's on the way. People look for approval. We're pack animals. And they've changed our pack from, being actual people in real life to being people online. And they can kind of change our behavior that way. But using an AI to like hector you into doing what the AI knows what's best for you, right? And like, if you're like, hey AI, can you do this for me? It's like, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. You're like, whoa. This AI is gone way too far, right? First of all, my name's Mark. And second, right? So it's very interesting. It's very interesting what's going on. We're being soft prepped for it. That's what this is. Giving kids tablets to learn on is prepping them to not learn from humans. So who's going to teach them? Their AI friend, right? Oh, it's so scary. So scary. Anyway, so on that happy note, I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas. And enjoy your Christmas dinner. And I hope that you see your family, and I hope that it's wonderful. And I'll be back tomorrow, and there'll probably be some political news. Somebody else do something stupid or say something dumb today, and I'm sure I'll ferret it out and show it to you tomorrow. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support. Have a very Merry Christmas, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.